Judges 14:1. Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah he saw, circle saw, one of the daughters of the Philistines. Then he came up and told his father and mother, I saw, circle saw again, one of the daughters of the Philistines at Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife, circle wife. But his father and mother said to him, is there not a woman among the daughters of your relatives, circle relatives, or among all of our people, circle people, that you must go take the wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? But Samson said to his father, get her for me, for she is right in my eyes, circle eyes. His father and mother did not know that it was from the Lord, for he was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. At that time, the Philistines ruled over Israel. Then Samson went down with his father and mother to Timnah, and they came to the vineyards of Timnah. And behold, a young lion came toward him roaring. Then the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and although he had nothing in his hand, he tore the lion to pieces, as one tears a young goat. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked, circle talked, with the woman, and she was right in Samson's eyes, circle eyes. And after some days, he returned to take her, circle take. And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion and honey. And he scraped it out into his hands and went on eating as he went. And he came to his father and mother and gave some to them, and they ate. But he did not tell them he had scraped the honey from the carcass of a lion. His father went down to the woman, and Samson prepared a feast there, for so the young men used to do. As soon as the people saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said to them, let me now put a riddle to you. If you can tell me what it is within 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot tell me what it is, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. And they said to him, put your riddle to us that we may hear it. And he said to them, out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. And in 3 days they could not solve the riddle. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, entice, circle entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us here to impoverish us? And Samson's wife wept over him, circle wept, and said, you only hate me. You do not love me. You have put a riddle to my people, circle my people, and you have not told me what it is. And he said to her, behold, I have not told my father or my own mother. Shall I tell you? And she wept, circle wept, before him 7 days that their feast lasted. And on the 7th day, he told her because she pressed him so hard. Then she told the riddle to her people. And the men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, what is sweeter than honey and what is stronger than a lion? And he said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. This marriage is starting out great. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. And he went down to Ashkelon, which is another city, and he struck down 30 men of the town and took their spoil and gave their garments to the one who had told the riddle. In hot anger, he went back to his father's house, and Samson's wife was given to his companion who had been his best man. Wow, what a glorious story of family unity and love. Hey, ready? I'm going to talk for a few moments today about how your life can be directed toward God. I'm also going to talk and challenge you in this area. Many of you are living lives not directed by God. Many of you are walking down paths of destruction. And I'm going to go after you today because I want you to come back to truth. And Samson, we're going to look at his life over the next few weeks. He provides some of the most famous stories in the Bible. Samson and Delilah. That story's coming in a few weeks, and it'll actually be the end of a horribly chosen life. But this is the front end of his life. And we're going to see how the patterns of his life as a young man will continue throughout the rest of his life. If you got your notes, pull them out. They should be in your bulletin. If you're watching online, if you're especially on Facebook, at the top of the comment section, there's a link. Click on that link and my notes will drop down. Number one is this. Ready? Here we go. Samson's path is disruptive. Samson's path is disruptive. So I'm going to talk about something metaphorically. Ready? Your life is on a path right now. Listen to me. There is no one in the world who isn't living on their own path. You have your own path. I have my own path. Everyone has their own path. Billions of people have billions of paths. What that means is this. Your path direction is chosen by your choices. Your choices affect your path. In other words, you got up today, you put on certain clothes, you came to church, or you're watching online or whatever. Your choices affect the direction of your life. Those are things you choose, and that's the direction you go. You might not think of it that way, but in reality, Scripture talks about all of our lives as a path. That every step I take, I choose to take. I'm going in this direction. I continue to go left. I continue to go left. I continue to go left. Now I go right. Now I go forward. I might unconsciously take these steps, but in reality, I'm choosing every one of these. I'm not being forced to go right. And so here's the reality. My end result of all of my choices might not be something I like. How do I make sure that my end result of my choices are things I like? I choose godly back here. Because the end result of bad choices is a bad end. Number one, Samson's path is disruptive. Because of disobedience, much of the nation of Israel, about 1100 BC, so this is 1,000 years before Jesus, 3,000 years ago from our time, was controlled by the Philistines. Israel, the nation of Israel, has been disobeying God. God allows a foreign nation to come in and rule over them. As a teenager in the village of Zorah, Samson walked 4 miles to Timnah on the Israel-Philistine border and was attracted to a Philistine woman. Here we go. Everybody get ready. Buckle up because it's going to get a little bumpy. Philistines were south of Israel. Israel north, Philistines south. There was a border between the two of them. The border was made by a little river called in the Sorek Valley, the Sorek River. Very similar to how the Rio Grande cuts a natural divide between Mexico and the United States. You know when you're in the United States, you know when you're in Mexico, because there's a water border for most of our border between nations. And so it's a natural native border that keeps nations to go, hey, don't come over here, we don't go over there, whatever. That's the same thing that was happening here in this story. But watch, Zorah, where Samson lives, is really close to the border, like Mexicali style or whatever. Like it's really close to the border. So you could go from, say, San Diego to Tijuana, basically just by walking over, depending on where you lived. Zorah was that same thing. Timnah, watch this, was a Philistine city just on the other side of the river. They were only 4 miles separated, but there was a river that split these two towns in half. One side Philistine, the other side Israel. And that's where Samson lived. He wanders around one day for 4 miles and ends up at a town called Timnah. And he's attracted to a Philistine woman. So he, as a young man, probably late teens, maybe 20 years old, walking around in the Sorek Valley, and he walks by, and across the river, he sees a hottie in Timnah. And he's like, wow. Instead of walking on, he says, I shall pull aside to see this beautiful sight. And thus his story begins. Let me show you actually where this story actually physically took place in history. This is the Google map of the nation of Israel. Israel's that skinny sliver of land in between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Zorah is down south, right across, actually it's just south of Jerusalem. You can go there today if you want to go there. You see the green little thing called the Sorek Valley there that I put? That's basically the valley and the river that separates northern Israel from southern Philistines. Zorah is where Samson grew up. Timnah, 4 miles away, just to the west, is where this woman, unnamed, but this is where she lives. This is the path that Samson took from Zorah to Timnah. And here's the other map of that spot. He's going to walk right down this valley. You can see the river there down at the bottom of the river. It's kind of down at the bottom of the picture, it kind of snakes around. That's all the places, that's all the further he had to walk. Zorah's up in the hills, Timnah's down in the plain, in the valley. And here actually is, I found a guy did a aerial shot of this is Timnah. This dirt mound is Timnah. I found this on YouTube. And Samson's wedding took place somewhere on this dirt lot. So you can see the archaeologists are digging through it there up top with that tent. But Timnah was a small town on this dirt hill. The Sorek Valley is behind it. You see to this day, 3,000 years later, they still have orchards and vineyards growing in this valley. What I want you to see is right behind that white tent is the stream, is the little river. And up behind it to the right, at the top of your top right of the picture of the video, is where Samson lived. He walked down the hill, down into this valley, and here's the key. He got to that vineyard, and he saw somebody across the river, and there was a moment he had a chance to not go there, but because he lived so close to the border, he went across the water. There was a moment that Samson got wet. There was a moment that Samson trudged through the water to get to Timnah. There was a moment that Samson, in his mind, said, I probably shouldn't do this, but chose to. And the results now, we're going to see how that plays out. But I want you to see, Samson got married somewhere on the top of that hill, and that's the river that he walked across to find his new wife. And here's our principle. Be careful where you walk, as your location affects your options. Woo! Tweet that. Ready? Be careful where you walk. Why? Because your location, where you end up, affects your options. Everywhere you go, you limit your options. You walk with godly people, you have these options. You walk with wicked people, you have these options. You move to a place, you have different options. I grew up in northern Minnesota, where it's like 10 below right now. Thank you, Jesus. I ended up in Temecula Valley. In my school, I grew up in a school of 900, our whole town, including like rodents and deer, was about 970. So like our church is multiple times bigger than my whole city. Wrap your mind around that. My graduating class had 69 kids in it. So understand this. I had limited options growing up in Walker, Minnesota. For athletics, for academics, for jobs, for wives, because everybody knew each other. We were all like related, so it was kind of funky. Anyway, all the Norwegians living up there. Ready? Everywhere you live, listen to me, everywhere you go, you have limited options. We moved to California and my options just exploded. I had thousands of more options than I did going to the beach, going to school, meeting people. I met my wife in California. Here's my point. Where you go affects your options. You choose poorly, your options are poor. And here's what happens. We get to a point where we make a bad choice, and now all of our options that are left are the best of the bad choices. Whereas if you were to back up from your bad choice and go, let me not go there, I have different and better options here because I'm following God. Samson here goes to a place he shouldn't have gone. And he found some woman that he's like, wow, she is smoking hot. She is right in my eyes. The minute that phrase came out of his mouth, you know it's a train wreck. Because he tells his mom and dad, those of you guys that have teenagers in your house or 20-somethings in your home, or you will one day, you're going to get this phrase, hey, can I talk to you about something? And you as mom and dad, you're like, yeah, this is the first time my kids talk to me in like 10 years. Yeah, I'd love it. What's going on? Hey, what's going on, son? I just want to say I found her. You found her, like what does that mean? Oh my gosh, I found her. I found my wife. Wow, and all of a sudden a parent's head just goes, zzz, because this is somebody coming into your family, right? So this is as big of a choice as you can make outside of following Jesus. And so parents are like, whoa, who is this girl? Like, oh my gosh, you're gonna love her. I met her last night. I was so drunk and she was drunk and we had a spelling contest at this bar and she could spell Jesus. And so I said, you're my wife. And now you as parents go, that's your level of discernment, son? Like you were hammered at a bar and you picked up some chick and said, she can spell Jesus and we're good? Like, what? Yeah, I don't even know her last name, but she's great. What are you doing? Like you're taking somebody into your life that this is your level of like bringing people into our home? Samson's at that same level. He goes, he goes back home after going to Timnah and goes, hey, mom and dad, guess what? I found a girl I want to marry. Sweet. Oh my gosh. We're so excited for you. Who is she? Yeah, I met her in Timnah. Whoa, time out, son. Is she a Philistine woman? Yeah, but she's so awesome. How awesome is she? She's pretty awesome, I think. She's good looking. Time out, son. You do realize the Philistines worship demons, right? And our people know the true God. So why don't you choose a woman who has your same value system? Because the woman you bring into your home is going to influence you literally for the rest of your life. So why would you bring somebody into your home and into your heart that's gonna lead you literally away from God? And just because she's good looking, like there's a ton of hotties in Israel. Why go to Timnah, son? And you know what he says? She's right in my eyes. Not, thanks for the godly counsel, mom and dad. Maybe I should listen to you, mom and dad. Why don't you go talk to your pastor, Samson? None of those things. He just says, she's right in my eyes. Get her for me. And in those days, parents arranged marriages. That's why he's talking to his mom and dad. And they give him advice and he still says, whatever. And this is the first step of destruction. Listen to me, especially children with your parents. Listen to me. Listen to mom and dad. I know you think that you're smart and you may be an intelligent person, but your parents have your best in mind. And it may go against what you want, but don't just choose everything because it's right in your eyes or it feels good to me. Because oftentimes the things that feel the best are the most destructive, and wisdom will lead you away from death. I love Ephesians 5:15. Paul the Apostle, 1,000 years later, writes this to the church at Ephesus. Look carefully then how you what? How you walk. Your life is a metaphorical walk, not as what? Unwise, but as wise. Guess what? You know what's crazy about living for God? Is you can be a Christian, you can know God and make really bad decisions. Do you know that's true? How many times have you ever seen that, like a stud of a pastor? Oh, hey, he's a homosexual meth addict. Oh, really? Wow, really? Or he's been sleeping with this person or whatever. And you just kind of go, wow, all of a sudden, all the skeletons come blowing out of the closet and you go, what is this? You know what? Ready? Nobody nukes their spiritual life overnight. You know what happens? It's a slow descent to death. It's a bunch of small choices you make till you crash. Your spiritual life is a lot like a plane. When you follow God, listen, it's not your power that keeps you following God. The Spirit of God keeps you connected to God. You don't have to put effort into to make God love you. God loves you because he built you. He loves you anyway. But here's the key, ready? It's possible to live unwise even as a godly person. What that means is this: you keep making bad decisions and God goes, come on, come back to me. Conscience is telling you, Holy Spirit's going, don't do that. Hey, come on, keep coming. Hey, go wise. Sometimes we repent and God restores our relationship with him and we pull out of a nosedive. And here's my encouragement to you in here, ready? Or if you're listening to me online, some of you guys are heading off a cliff. And let me as your pastor lovingly love on you and rebuke you at the same time. Ready? Some of you guys are going off the cliff and you can stop it because you have the power to choose, but many of you will not listen to me. But I want to make it clear. I want to lovingly warn you, some of you are going to die. And if it's not physically, you will shame your family. And this is the way I always look at living. Ready? It's the way I always look at living. If I was to drop dead right now and I didn't have a chance to erase my search history on my phone or on my computer or to clean up my secret life before my kids start going through my phone and my computer, whatever, after I'm dead, or you're a kid and your parents are like, hey, what? They start going through your phone or whatever, how much shame would you bring to your own family? How much shame would you bring to your parents if they knew everywhere you went and everybody you talked to and pictures you sent to boys and all that kind of stuff? How much shame would you bring on your parents going, I can't even believe she was doing this. I can't even believe my dad was like this. I can't even believe my mom was doing this stuff. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your private life. I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about when you leave those doors, because that's the plane. The plane isn't here. The plane's out there. Many of us are walking with God and we're struggling and awesome, but God will give us the strength to keep walking with him. But my point is some of us are going, I really am not going to listen to you. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to listen to you. I know that might be godly, but I really don't care because this is right in my eyes. And guess what? Samson's going to crash. He's not even going to make it to being an old man. You want to know why? Because women are going to be his destruction. He always chooses ungodly women, and it deeply affects his life. That happened to be his vice. It might not be your vice. Your vice is something else. You have another addiction, another weakness in your life. My encouragement to you is this. God already knows what it is. Repent of it and go after it from the sense of leaving it behind. Like go after your weakness and leave it behind. Live a life with no shame. If you were to drop dead, go through my phone, go through my computer, go through my secret life, go through my closet. I had nothing. That's the kind of life you want to pursue. Samson never got there, and you're going to see him crash. It's really ugly. But my point is he's a man of God. God's using him, but he's still living unwise. Because parents arrange marriages, when Samson tells them about her, they counsel against it. While Philistines weren't a banned people group to marry from, it was unwise as they didn't have similar values. So sometimes you're reading your Bible, you're reading in your commentary. I've read many commentaries that say the reason Samson was told not to do this is because they weren't allowed to marry Philistines. It's actually not true. I read a lot of really wrong commentaries. In Deuteronomy chapter 7, it talks about the banned people groups. Hey, don't marry Canaanites. The Philistines were not Canaanites. They were sea people that actually came from the sea and implanted themselves in Israel. So the Israelites technically could marry Philistines. But watch, what's always allowable is not always good. What's allowable isn't always wise. Things you can do are not always wise. So my encouragement to you is always choose the wiser, and God will bless your life. But many of us just choose what's right in our eyes, and our lives go off rail. Ready? Here's our principle. Those that are closest to us influence the most. I'm going to give you a life principle. I hope you apply it, especially young people. Everybody pay attention. If you're looking at me online, listen to me. Ready? Your life is built like this. Here's a biblical principle, life principle you can apply literally today. Your life is built like this. Here's you, and here's concentric circles of influence in your life. The tightest circle you've got to you, this little concentric circle right here, the inner one should have very few people in it. Like very few, like God. And like 2 friends, or maybe your parents if you're still living in their home. Ready? The levels of influence goes like this. Who influences me the most? Absolutely my wife, hands down. My wife influences me the most. Inside of my concentric circles of influence, I basically got my wife and like 2 other guys and Jesus. Why? Because these people influence me the most. They speak in my ears. I trust them. My life will go many times where people who are closest to me, who I trust, are guiding me. And if those people are godly and speaking godly wisdom and speaking biblical truth into my life, I will walk towards God because we are communal creatures. We want to be with people. It's a reason that COVID was so disastrous for people. You go back to drinking, you go back to getting high, you go back to doing illicit things online. Why? Because it's a mixture of boredom and just loneliness. Why? Because you're built to be with people. And when you choose the wrong people to get tight with you, they will lead you astray. And Samson here chooses a Philistine woman. His parents are going, why don't you at least choose a woman from the people group that believe the same thing you believe? Ready? You should have very few people in your tight circle. And if they're not godly, get them the heck out. Unless it's your spouse, then you're stuck with them. But pray for them. But there should be very few men and women in your circle that actually speak truth into your life that you listen to. If they're not godly, get rid of them. Because many of you guys are running with ungodly people and you're wondering why your life's a train wreck. Ready? And the next circle is like other family and friends. You're kind of like, yeah, you're in my life, but I don't really listen to you that much. And then out here is like people at work or people at the gym or whatever. And then out here is like Walmart. You know, people you run into like in the cereal aisle when you're getting Lucky Charms or whatever. And they go, hey, you should really invest in this company. And you go, peace out. I'm not going to listen to you. You're from Walmart, right? And here's the thing. Whether it's 1,000 people at Walmart all the way down to 3 people in your inner circle, you got to know who you're listening to. Samson had parents. He had a priest. There's a priest in Israel at this time in Judges 14. He could have went to the priest and said, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Give me some godly counsel. He doesn't. He doesn't listen to a priest. He doesn't listen to his parents. He just goes, she's right in my eyes. I want her. Literally, this is the beginning of his train wreck. His plane's heading for the ground and he doesn't even recognize it. Number 1, Samson's path is disruptive. I want to encourage you. There are people in your life you need to remove. There are people online you need to block. There are gaming friends you need to get rid of because of how they speak, what they do, things they influence you about. There are people you need to kick out of your life for the sake of your own spiritual health. Leads us to number 2. Samson's choice is disruptive. Samson's path is disruptive. He went places he shouldn't have, and now it limits his options. And among his options, he's going to make a bad choice. Samson's choice is disruptive. As she was right in his eyes, he doesn't inquire of the priest or listen to his parents, and they go to arrange this wedding. On the way, a lion attacks Samson from a vineyard. He then kills it with his hands and leaves it by the road. So remember from that video, there's vineyards all around Timnah in the Sorek Valley, literally to this day in Israel. We'll go there. And if you've ever, do I have any hikers? Where are my hiking people? Anybody hike? Okay, we have 3 healthy people in the orchard. Awesome. I see we're gonna have to do an aerobics class or something like that. Okay, so watch. I've gone on many of the hikes in our area. So there's like, what's the one? Santa Rosa Plateau. So Santa Rosa Plateau, you walk on the Santa Rosa Plateau, and I remember walking my dog on that trail. It was a couple of years ago when there was a mountain lion that had killed a dog and had attacked a horse, scared a horse. I think somebody had to shoot it or something. But I was walking on this trail with my dog, and I had a weapon with me to make sure I wasn't going to get attacked. And here's the thing. When you're walking, I'm going to help you because I want to keep you alive. Let your pastor give you some tactical help. When you're walking, always look above you. The problem is we like to look down. We like to look at our feet, and we like to look at rodents on the ground. The problem is danger's up top. If you're in the army, if you've ever done military, you know that the person that has a high ground usually has the advantage because it's difficult to fight uphill. So big cats know that. It's very possible when Samson was going on the way to the wedding, a lion came out of the vineyard or from the hillside and came to attack him. Big cats will jump out of the trees or out of the hills and jump on you and knock you down or your horse down or your dog down. So when you're walking, you should always have your eyes to the hills. It sounds like a song. All of us old people. Okay, but anyway, you keep walking. And Samson sees a lion coming towards him. And young lions, they're almost indestructible because of their speed and their strength. Easily can take down a full-grown man and kill him. And so this lion comes, it says the Spirit of God rushed upon him, and he grabs this lion and he tears its legs off and breaks its neck and chucks it out in the vineyard. Wow, what's going on? Imagine showing up to mom and dad. I'd be telling my mom, like, I just smoked a lion. How'd you do it? With these babies right here. These lethal weapons at the end of my arm did it. So Samson has the Spirit of God. He's a strong man that has the Spirit of God. but he's gonna make some really bad calls. After arranging the marriage in Timnah, so he kills the lion on the way to Timnah, chucks it out on the side of the road. So they get to Timnah, arrange the marriage with the woman. They return home. Later, so a couple months later, they're going to the ceremony now. Samson violates his Nazirite vow by taking honey from the dead lion and giving some to his unknowing parents. Hey, ready? Here's a first peek into Samson's character. His Nazirite vow is this. There's three basic parts of a Nazirite vow, which is a vow to God. I'm not gonna cut my hair until my Nazirite vow's done, and then I shave my head. So while I'm in my Nazirite vow, I don't cut my hair. Samson was in Nazirite vow his whole life. So he probably had long dreadlocks or whatever. So, because he had Jewish, he probably had some kind of Jewishy, stringy, kind of tight hair. And so he has probably tangled hair. His whole life, he never shaved it. So he has long hair. And another thing he never did as a Nazirite was drink wine or get drunk. And so he's heading to a wedding where he's probably gonna drink wine. And you don't touch a dead body. Nothing dead. So if your parent died or something and you were under a Nazirite vow, you'd have to have other people prepare the body so you didn't break your Nazirite vow. So literally on his way to his wedding, he's gonna almost violate all three of those. Imagine he's walking by and goes, hey, I should go check out that lion I killed. Dude, you're under a Nazirite vow. Why are you stopping to check out the lion? It's dead. Get away from it. Go stay away from the dead lion. But no, he walks up, hey, I'm gonna check that thing out. I really smoked that thing. Hey, and he sees bees going in and out, honey bees. And he goes, I'm gonna take some honey out of here. He's almost to Timnah. It's only a 4-mile walk. You can get there without a snack, bro. And he eats some of this honey from the dead lion, literally violating his Nazirite vow to God. And then Jesus is calling right now. So listen, what I'm telling you is the truth. So he violates his Nazirite vow, and then he's so arrogant, he gives some to his parents. Hey, where'd you get this honey, son? Oh, I just found it on the side of the road. In this dead thing I didn't tell you about? You wanna know what a bad mixture is? Is being super strong and super arrogant. Being unteachable will destroy you. Being unteachable will destroy your life. That's what arrogance is. Arrogance says, I don't need your input in my life. I'm good. I do what I want. Our culture is full of arrogance. Instead of being a godly leader, Samson's first decision as a young man was to violate his vow to God and allow the lust of his eyes to lead him astray. And here's our principle. Most circumstances are self-chosen. Woo! Hey, you don't like what's going on in your life? Get off of social media. You want to change the way you don't like how you don't like feeling like anxious and like you don't look good or you're not good enough or blah. Let me tell you something. You know how what'll change your mental health? Literally get off of social media. Literally, you don't need it. Literally, you don't need social media. Literally, you don't need it. Literally, you don't need social media. Like I'm just going, you'll be amazed how addicted you are to it when you get rid of it and your brain will go, hey, we need to check social media. Hey, you wanna know the reason on Facebook why that little red balloon pops up? Is because psychologically that's built into you to go, hey, I wonder who said something. I wonder if somebody liked my picture. You're so narcissistic, you seek out appreciation. And that little red balloon goes, hey, check this out. Hey, check this out. And you literally, many of us can't get through a day without going, I need to check what's on here. Many of us check it. You can't even get through a church service without checking it out. No, I wonder what's on Instagram because this pastor's boring. You can't even stay mentally disciplined for 40 minutes. And that's a travesty. That some phone's calling you about nothing. You want to change your life? Literally get off of social media. It'll change your mental health. Don't let people influence you in ungodly ways. Because most circumstances are self-chosen. You choose to go online. You choose to interact with people. Some stuff is forced upon you. COVID, blah, blah, blah. Some things you can't do anything about. But the vast majority of your life, you get to choose who you hang out with. You get to choose where you go online. You get to choose where your thumbs send you. Those are your thumbs, son. So choose wisely, and God will bless your life. Samson chooses poorly, and it's going to be the end of him at the end. Number 3, Samson's reaction is disruptive. Number 1, Samson's path is disruptive. Where he chooses to go disrupts his life. Number 2, Samson's choice in where he went was disruptive. He chose a woman he shouldn't have chosen because his inner circle now is going to be influenced by her. And lastly, Samson's reaction when he chose her at the wedding is going to be disruptive as well. At the wedding, Samson proposes an expensive challenge to the 30 Philistine men at the wedding feast. So hey, how many of you guys have ever been to a wedding? Those of you guys that are married, I hope you're raising your hand. You're like, yeah, I didn't really want to be there, but yeah, I did. I went to that thing. Ready? So we say, hey, when somebody invites us to a wedding, like, hey, will you come to my wedding? You're like, the first thing that goes through your head is like, how long is it going to be? Like, okay, where is it? How long am I going to have to put up with it? Right? Unless you're really hungry, you're like, I'd like some free food. What are you serving? That can also be a question. So we have vineyards around here. We got churches around here. Like you go to a ceremony and then it's like, oh, I put in my 3 hours and then I go home. Not so in the Jewish culture. The Jews partied for 7 days. So you get invited to my wedding, you better take a week off, son, because we're going to party. We're going to celebrate the coming together of a man and woman in the start of a new home. That should be celebrated. So they did it for 7 days, just feasting and hanging out, playing Scrabble, whatever they did 3,000 years ago, right? So watch. Samson's in the middle, at the beginning of this feast, the beginning of the 7 days. And he goes, so there's 30 guys. He doesn't have family in Timnah. So the people of Timnah go, hey, it's a lame party when nobody shows up. Let us give you 30 guys. He's like, cool. I invite a bunch of kind of strangers to party with me. Cool, it's better than being alone. So 30 guys get in there. Imagine they're sitting around a fire at night. Samson's like, hey, I got a riddle. Anybody want to hear a riddle? I tell you what, you answer this riddle, I'll give you 30 changes of clothes and 30 linen garments. So to us, we go, so what? I could run down to Marshall's and buy some clothes for $15. Who cares? Listen, 3,000 years ago, number one, clothes in general were expensive. So a change of clothes, just clothing, to get clothes made and manufactured was expensive because there was no stores. You had to hand make everything. But to get linen garments you had to be obscenely wealthy to afford linen handmade garments 3,000 years ago. It's literally like having a $7,000 Armani suit. So he goes, hey, I tell you what, I'm gonna put out this riddle. Any of you guys get it? I will give you linen garments and a change of clothes. Here's the deal though. You guys can't get it. You guys all give me a change of clothes and 30 linen garments. So he's about ready to rake cash money in on this deal. And so the men are so arrogant, they go, yeah, we'll take that. What do you got? Let me hear your riddle. And then he gives them a riddle about the dead lion, which is arrogant as well. And they couldn't figure it out. And you know what they do? They go to Samson's inner circle. They go to the weak link in the chain and they go, hey, sweetie, I know you just got married, but let me tell you something. You don't tell us what this answer to this riddle is because we're going to be poor trying to come up with all these linen garments. I can't afford a $5,000 Armani suit. Or we're going to burn you and your father to death. How about that? Hey, welcome to your wedding. Now imagine her. You're just a young woman that got married. And all of a sudden you got grown men going, we're going to come burn your house down. And you as a woman go, what did I do? My husband's a total loser for putting us in this situation. Now I got to deal with it as a woman. And now I got people threatening my life. Well, you know what she does? She ain't going to beat Samson in an arm wrestling contest. So you know what she does? She nags him and cries and whines and makes his life verbally miserable during their wedding. It's basically all through their honeymoon-ish in our culture. It's all through the honeymoon. It's oh gosh, this is so horrible. I can't stand it. I'm out. And you as a husband are going, dude, what is going on? Ready? One of the strengths of femininity is relational connection. The strength of masculinity is basically strength. We like to punch each other in the face and build cities. Men like physical things to do. It's literally like what Samson does. Go around and do things. Women, although they can like to do things too, high level of relational. So they have relational abilities, which is why most women should be not online, on social media. Because you feel bad about yourself, everything you see online. Why? Because it's relational connection things. It's self-image type things. Ready? She now, because she's in Samson's inner circle, because he chose her to be in there, she went from Walmart to the inner circle, the Walmart of Timnah, all the way into the inner circle. And now, guess what? She's influencing his life. And she nags him and cries and whines their whole wedding ceremony to the point where Samson's like, I can't handle it anymore. Not that that's ever happened to any husband at the orchard. I'm just saying it happened one time to Samson. Not that that's ever a thing. But if you ever hear of that happening, just say, hey, that happened to Samson too. Guess what? He finally just goes, okay, what? It's a lion. It's a lion. The answer's a lion. And then she goes and tells the guys, hey, it's a lion. And they come back and tell him, hey, the answer to your question is, or the riddle is a lion. To which Samson says, if you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have got my riddle. So not only is Samson arrogant, but he's not, shall we say, very loving to his new wife. And he's so angry, he goes to another Philistine city called Ashkelon, kills 30 guys, takes their clothes, and pays off his debt. And here's my thing to you, ready? I close. Bad choices have unforeseen consequences. Bad choices have unforeseen consequences. If we knew what was going to happen when we choose this, if we knew the backside of what's going to happen, chances are we wouldn't choose it because we know what the payoff's going to be and we don't want to pay that price, whether it's shame or guilt or losing our family or losing our job or losing all of our money, whatever it is. But the problem is that many times what we want is like the outside of a garbage bag that looks really beautiful. And you're like, that's a sweet looking bag. Look at that sweet, that's a sweet bag. And so we make that choice. And you know what we didn't realize is on the inside of that garbage bag is garbage. And now we made the choice to open the garbage bag because it looked attractive to us, but we don't like everything that came with that choice because it was unseen to us on the front end. And that's the tough part of being human. Ready? We're drawn to things that God doesn't want in our lives. And it's up to godly men and women to go, I choose against that for the greater good of being blessed by God. And I want people in my life to help me make those decisions. My inner circle has to be godly. I want women speaking into my life as a young lady to help me be a godly woman. I want godly men speaking in my life as a young man to make godly decisions. The mate I choose, I want to be godly. Where I move, I want to be godly. Everything I want in my life to be godly. And the people I choose to be close to me will help me lead my life toward God. There you go. And guess what? You know what? Samson is going to be the example over the next few weeks of the negative of everything I just said. He's going to be the way not to live life in the sad reality. Most of Bible stories you can make like an arc of like, started really bad, but ended really awesome. There's no awesome at the end of Samson. It's really sad. But it's instructive to us to help us live lives worthy of God's calling.